Hey, welcome everybody. It's Peter Catalano again. We are doing the interview. I love doing the interview. I love meeting all these great people here in the Houston, Texas area who are business owners or work for great businesses and professionals out there. And today I get the privilege of meeting and talking with Emily Taylor. Now, why is this a privilege again? Well, recently I talked with another attorney and her specialties in business planning. Well, Emily is specialty in estate planning. And as a financial advisor, I've got a ton of great vetted advisors that I work with so that we provide the best possible advice to our clientele. And Emily certainly ranks on top of that list. So Emily, thank you for joining me today on the interview.
Thanks for having me, Peter.
Oh, my pleasure. As the format I like to do, like to get to know you just a little bit before we dive into an area that you told me recently is kind of a hot area. We'll get to that in a minute. But before that, I noticed that I caught you at home today. I didn't forewarn you of this interview, so thank you for your willingness to join me on it. And I see you got Spider-Man in the background. So tell us a little bit about you. And is that your Spider-Man backpack?
I do. It's not my Spider-Man backpack, thanks. I am home because we're prepping for the holidays this week. And I've got two kiddos. So one of them is a 4-year-old and it's his Spider-Man backpack. I just shipped him off to Grandma and Grandpa for the day. So otherwise he'd probably be in here with me. And then I got a 1-year-old and that's her pink jacket next to that, if you can see everything in my house. And so I got a 1-year-old little girl and they keep me busy when I'm not doing my work.
That is awesome. We took the family to see Spider-Man. The new Spider-Man just came out. By the way, folks, it's December of 2021, if you haven't figured out the timing. And I'll tell you, the new Spider-Man is awesome. Now, I don't know the 4-year-old, 1-year-old. We left our 4-year-old with the grandparents and we took the olders. But great show. If you're a Spider-Man fan, highly recommend it. Anyways, thank you. Good to know that if that was your backpack for work, I actually appreciate that. It'd be kind of fun. Emily, we've been talking a little bit about estate planning. I know that's your specialty. And you recently informed me that you're getting a lot of requests in the guardianship area and special needs area. And as a financial advisor, I've seen this kind of tick up a little bit on my social media feeds as well. So tell us what you're seeing out there. What's happening in this arena?
Sure. So, right, I am an estate planning attorney, and so fundamentally I estate plan for all kinds of people, but my background is in special needs and elder law planning, and so as part of that, I'm a certified guardianship attorney. What that means is I have a little extra training that I have to keep up with to make sure I can be in front of the court in guardianship world. I'm getting a lot of those calls and I think it's a combination of things. One, I think the pandemic has kept people apart from their loved ones. I think that they've been healthier or braver, whatever the case may be, to be back in touch with the people that they love. They might see that maybe mom or dad who had that dementia diagnosis a couple years ago, they've really declined and now they need some help. Maybe mom and dad didn't meet somebody like me before they needed that kind of help. And so they don't have powers of attorney. They don't have somebody who can take care of them legally. So they have to go to the guardianship court and request to be able to pay mom and dad's bills or make their medical decisions. We're also seeing kids, right, who are just aging out like they always do, children that have some kind of a disability. And they're turning 18 and mom and dad need to still have the legal authority to take care of them the way they always have. And so we go to the court for that as well. The uptick, I think, honestly, is that attorneys that historically did this kind of work, the certification itself is relatively new. We've only had to maintain a certification for a handful of years. And I think some of the attorneys that used to do this work have decided not to keep up with the certification. So there are less of us. Which is good for me, but there's a lot of work out there, and I think there are a lot of people looking for this kind of help.
So what's the starting point for somebody? How does somebody know to come to you? What do they need to look for, do?
Sure. That's a good question. So one, it sort of is on either side of the scale. One may be that someone's in distress, right? We're in crisis mode. Somebody's got some kind of a disability, and it could be something that's natural within them, right? Or it could be an accident that they had. I mean, I had a case, and it was a business owner who was a doctor, and he actually got COVID and couldn't make payroll for his other business. And so we had to go get a guardianship so that we could get somebody to sign payroll for his folks, right? So there's a lot of those emergencies or crises where we've got someone who might have an Alzheimer's or dementia diagnosis, and they don't have the capacity to make decisions, but they still may be making decisions. And so we see a lot of that as well. And then on the other side, it's people that want to be generous this time of year. They feel fortunate that they've kind of weathered the last couple of years the way they have, and they might want to give to their cousin, their niece, their whomever who has a disability, and they know that that person's going to need it, but they want to give it to them in a way that won't disrupt some kind of public government benefit that they might otherwise be receiving. So we have to be thoughtful about the way we give to people that have disabilities.
So this is there's a lot of subtopics here we can dive into, and I hope you come back at some point in the future and dive into it. But for right now, let's just say, starting point, this sounds like estate planning 101 is where people need to begin. Just am I right in saying that? Just get the documents started, so at least we have something in place. I mean,
right. So then we're not being reactive. Right?
Yeah,
that's a lot of people that are reactive. Now, if you want to be proactive, that's great. If you're proactive, you have that child with that birth defect that they need to address, or mom and dad have a dementia diagnosis, but they're still very healthy and cognizant, and they can sign all kinds of documents, right? Mm-hmm. When we know that, when we have people that are healthy and able and willing to sign something and have the capacity to do so, they absolutely should. That way you're not in that crisis mode later, calling me and trying to figure out how to get access to mom's bank account so that we can make, her mortgage payment or whatever that might look like.
It's interesting because I see this all the time in my business as well. It's the reactionary. It's, oh my gosh, we never thought it would happen to us. And in my opinion, and you're the legal professional here, it just makes sense to have the documents, as challenging the conversations as they are. And I get they're not easy, but as challenging as they are, it's a lot easier to have this conversation at the front end than try to work it. Now, I don't know if you've experienced this, but I've seen families just go at each other, siblings, not exactly be nice to each other when it comes to what's the best care for mom and dad, because mom and dad didn't put anything into place, or they didn't tell the kids, this is what we're doing, you will follow these rules. So now every child's got their own opinion, and maybe their own counsel, usually the opinion of Google, which of course is right, not. And so, we get these fights going. So let's take this. We have an aging population. We have the sandwich generation. We see a lot of that. What can somebody do right now? I see my parents kind of slipping, or, dad's not quite as lucid as he used to be. How do I approach that? Do you have any advice in that realm?
Sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, I'll say we do a little bit of probate litigation at my office. And so to your point, I've seen plenty of fighting families, and they're always mad at each other. But the truth is, if the person that they're arguing over would have done their planning, they wouldn't have to be mad at each other. And they I don't want to tell them to be mad at mom and dad, but that's really whose fault it is that they didn't.
Well, that's probably misdirected. Right? It is probably misdirected anger. I mean, we got to get mad at somebody, and we don't want to get mad at mom and dad who's sick, because that would be, rude or morally not right. But the reality is, mom, dad, you should have had your stuff together here. But no, I get it. So I got to fight the sibling. Yeah.
Right. So it's how you talk, how you bring it up. I mean, everybody's different. Every family's different, right? I've seen the stoic, military dad who doesn't want to share anything. I've seen the mom who doesn't want her kids to know that they're going to come into money one day. So it can be a hard dynamic to have those conversations because there are different reasons for not sharing, right? But I think, there are really great apps these days that you can put together. You can include not just names of your trusted advisors and professionals if you have them, but detailed information as to numbers and that whole life policy they have with Peter that they're going to access to pay for their long-term care. They can have all of that kind of stuff in apps like LastPass, and oh gosh, there's all kinds of them out there, but you can put all kinds of information, and you can give somebody the code and you tell them, one day when something happens to me, right? Because I don't want to tell you all my information yet, but one day you'll need it. So when something happens to me, you take this code and you try to access my stuff. And if I'm not ready, then I can tell you no. But if I'm ready or I'm not cognizant, right, then it's going to give you access to that for them. That's one way that technology has helped us be able to kind of share with people in a way that we couldn't before, but it gives you the opportunity to share with your loved ones the information you need. Obviously, you can go old school. You can write it on some paper. You can put it in a book. You can tell them where they can get it when they need it, right? Or you can tell them now. I mean, it's not uncommon for me to have families that say, now that we've got all this in place and I've been through it with you, I thought it was simple. I thought it was just my will, but now I know it's all of my planning, it's my disability planning in the event I'm incapacitated, because most people are either injured or sick before they die, right? They don't just die. Right. And so, they put all these things together, they get a hold of you, they get a hold of their CPA, and we all come together in a meeting on occasion and say, hey, here's what mom and dad have planned. Here's how it's going to go down. We've got it all here. We have these other people that know what's going on, and they might not like it, but at least they're aware. So when the time comes, there's no surprises, right? That would be, of course, my preferred method, but it doesn't work for every family. So there are different ways, of course, to figuring that out and getting the information out when you're ready.
I agree. One of the values for my clientele, a little selfish plug here, is I'm the go-to guy. So the parents know to tell the kids, call Pete. Mm-hmm. And I know who the players are. I know where everything is. I do like with technology, what I don't know, and you brought up a great point. I like the little bit of technology that says, here are my passwords. Here's how you get into my Facebook account, my Instagram account. Here's where you can go in and shut it down and manage and control it. I think that's critical, not to mention all the Social Security benefits and everything else that a guardianship needs to be aware of and needs to have in place. Mm-hmm. You need to be able to make these decisions. So guardianship is huge on the horizon here. It's interesting that many of your peers are not renewing their education on it. So for the people out there who are seeing mom and dad slipping, are seeing, or even wanting to be proactive, let's say, look, let's be proactive. Let's have the conversation with Emily. Let's sit down, knock out some of these questions that, I know are emotional, but let's get this done. Mm-hmm. So that the kids don't have to try to piece it together. That's the case. Emily, how do they get a hold of you? What's the best way to reach you?
Sure, thanks. So for me, the best way to reach me is at my email address. It's etaylor, for Emily Taylor, at rappandcrock.com, rappandkrock.com, or 713-759-9977.
Excellent. So I'll have them email you, call you, just be proactive, folks. I think that's the message here that Emily, we've talked about, and it makes sense. Be proactive. Get this done.
People are sometimes more willing to talk to a stranger about those hard conversations than they are willing to talk to their families, right? Because they're not fun. So, but I'm here to do that. I meet people every day and I get really into their business, and I think we all walk away better for it.
Absolutely. Well, Emily, thank you for taking this time with me here today. I hope you come back and are willing to share a little more details about how it works, maybe some nuances of different types of agreements, if you're up for that. In the meantime, I thank you. Hope you have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year if we don't talk.
Thanks. You too.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time. We'll talk to you soon.